imagination, full of Disney wonder, news, and pop culture. It's the Main Street Electrical Podcast with Jenn Dave and David Dollar.
Hey, welcome to the Main Street Electrical Podcast. I'm Dave, and this is Jen, and we're live. So my kid just walked through the door the second the countdown started. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So the door opened behind me, and I'm turning around, I'm trying to wave him off, and I'm like, So, hey, Jen.
Hey, Dave.
It is the Main Street Electrical Podcast. Welcome to the Main Street Electrical Podcast. I have no idea if anybody's even watching so far, and that's okay because, hey, we kind of announced that we weren't sure if we were going to be able to do this show tonight until like a day or two ago, and we're like, let's just do it and make it happen. It's our first live show. We're going to start trying to go live once a month. Of course, I am David Dahl, that is Jenn Dave, and we are part of the Pawnastar Travel and Concierge. Jen owns the thing. I work there, so technically Jen's my boss, but she's also the best co-host for the podcast ever. So here we are. Jen, how did you Disney this week?
I am currently Disneying by wearing my Dumbo shirt.
I like it. Nice.
I love my Dumbo shirt. It's cold enough. So
yes, nice. So I am wearing my MGM Hollywood shirt. This is from the Lost Bros. I don't know if you can see it or not.
I like that. Yeah.
But also, our house is in a fire sale right now because I am fading in and out here, so I'm gonna have to change my background.
You are, yeah.
Look at that. I'm disappearing. So my beloved wife is kind of tired of everything in our house. It's just so much stuff in our house. And basically she's in this mode of like, everything must go. We're getting rid of all of it. And we have a few charities in the area that are kind of doing yard sales and things like that. And she's like, of course, she lost all that weight in the last year or so. All these clothes are going to fit. She's got piles of clothes over here and over here we're giving away. We have Disney plushies, probably 20 years of Disney plushies in our marriage that she's like, we can get rid of these. And we've got vintage plushes from the Disney store. And I told her, I'm like, there are things that hey, I gave you a long time ago, and I'm okay if we get rid of it. It's all right.
Yeah,
we can get rid of it. It's okay. So change my background there. Much better. Whatever. So I was like, we can get rid of it. It's all right. We've got little Disney store things. Still a lot of stuff with the tags on it. We're just kind of getting rid of it. So yeah, it's a little sad, bittersweet thing. And if you've had a drink or two on this Wednesday night, then I will come in clearly. Otherwise, I'm gonna fade in and out here. I don't know why. It's just the nature of the beast. I guess I'm gonna have to get a real camera for my podcast because I'm using the computer camera, and I guess I'm just gonna need something real. So Jen, I'm gonna ask you. We'll ask Derek. We'll just tell Derek to send us one because he loves us. And so Derek, send me a camera. Send me a camera. So Jen, we're gonna talk about our roller coasters tonight. We're gonna have our top 10 updated list. We've done the list 2 years. We've done our top 10s, but first, we're not going to do any news or anything, big news and whatever, but we are going to jump on this. Disney has announced a $60 billion investment in the parks, kind of out of nowhere. This wasn't even like announced at the D23 event.
D23.
So, from the Orlando Sentinel, this was also reported in all the newscasts. Walt Disney Company revealed Tuesday it plans to invest $60 billion in capital expenditure. That's billion with a B for the parks, experiences, and products division over the next 10 years, which would double what it spent in the last decade. Now we know, and we've heard that Disney is going to put $17 billion into Walt Disney World. That was coming. They had said that last year, and so we don't know what else is coming. Jen, $60 billion. That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. You can do a lot of things for $60 billion.
So obviously the first thing people think is, oh my gosh, a fifth park. Do you think that's feasible, or do you think, what do we think about that? So
I don't want to say it's not feasible, but they've also talked about some really big expansion plans, Magic Kingdom, that they're planning to to expedite. What was the word they used? It was like put it into hyperdrive. Hyperdrive. So,
yes.
And hyperdriving things takes money, right? So definitely we've got expansion. I think they've announced basically a switchover of Animal Kingdom. So all of those things are going to require an investment, but then it makes you wonder, okay, what else do they maybe have in the works that they haven't announced? Maybe another new attraction, maybe another, they've as much as said as there's going to be a new land in Magic Kingdom.
Yes.
They essentially have have said that.
Yeah,
So
well, we know the land is coming. We don't exactly know what it's going to
we
look
don't
like.
know what
Obviously,
it is,
villains has been kind of referenced, and that's what people are kind of
but
going with. But nobody knows for sure.
but
We
nobody
don't know for
knows.
sure.
And then,
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe there's been teasers for like an expansion of Pandora,
Mhm.
or like, maybe there's somewhere that they can expand in Galaxy's Edge. Like now that the
Right.
Star Cruiser is kind of defunct, like maybe there's like something that can go there. So I mean, I'm excited. Like it's like, yeah.
Jen, do you know how much space is between, like, what open space is between the Star Cruiser where it sits and Hollywood Studios? Like, I know originally they wanted it to back up into Hollywood Studios,
They
where you would
wanted it
walk out of the
to
Star Cruiser into Hollywood. Now it's a short distance. Is it?
so there's a parking lot, and I just know because we had rented a car.
Mhm.
And we drove, and then they valet parked us, but we could see when we came in, you can see the backside of the
Mhm.
spires
Right.
of Batu, right? So it was not super far away, like from the entrance to the Star Cruiser to like the Batu area, because literally I could see it across a largish parking lot, but I mean not as large as Epcot parking lot where you can walk
Right.
like
Right. Of
into your
course.
car, like not that much of a parking lot.
Right,
Like it
right. Well, it makes me wonder, and again, that's why I'm asking this question.
yeah.
Do you think they could fill that land in with something? Like, could they
Uh,
expand Galaxy's Edge out into where it meets Star Cruiser and do something
I
with
don't
that
think
little
it's
area?
impossible. I do not think it's
Mhm.
impossible. I mean, they'd have to move the parking elsewhere,
Of
but
course, of
but
course.
I think that's kind of
But
an
if they're not valet
easy.
parking for Star Cruiser, then why would they have the
Well,
lot?
yeah, then why could
And
you
so
not back it up? And then maybe I
exactly.
don't know if they're legally allowed to use the Halcyon for something else, like and like repurpose the building, or if it has to actually be like raised. But
Right.
regardless, I mean, why not? That would be kind of cool.
I
That'd
think
be
that'd be
awesome.
great. I think fantastic. Now, also released this week, and there's a 22-page document out there. I haven't read the whole thing. I don't have that kind of time, but there is a
Right.
document that Disney has submitted to the government to basically to
Mhm.
expand, expand Disneyland.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not just put a hotel up or not just build a ride, but
Mhm.
basically the way it looks and what I'm seeing projections of. And again, this is
Yeah.
not confirmed. This is not official. This
No.
is not saying this is exactly what they're going to do.
Mhm.
But there is an Instagram account, code_word_Disney, and he did a
Hmm.
fantastic set of maps. Basically, that they would build a park, build the new rides and stuff around the Disneyland Hotel and around Pixar Pier. Like they
Mm.
would basically put things in between
Ah.
there. We're talking like 15 new rides. Like as you're walking at Disneyland Hotel, you're walking into this new, what
Mhm.
essentially would be a new park. It'd be a small park, but it'd be a park encompassing those hotels because
Hmm.
we know Grand California goes into California Adventure. These
Mhm.
two would
Mhm.
go into this new park area. I don't think they would try to connect it. I think it would just be like a
Yeah,
separate entity.
that'd be cool.
Also, Disneyland Resort is looking at doing a Skyliner or a People Mover, returning the People Mover back there
Ah,
as
that'd be
well.
so great.
Something smaller, obviously, because the Skyliner. I mean, the land over there is not huge. They don't have a
No, it's
ton
not.
of space. But if you're at one end of California Adventure and you need to get to the Disneyland Hotel, that could be kind of a walk.
I mean, it's still a walk. I mean,
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
going several
So,
miles.
I mean, having that transportation would be fantastic. Having the monorail move
Mhm.
around, and
That'd be really cool.
yes, $60 billion is a lot of money, and yes, it will go quickly because they're spreading it
Because
around
yes,
all the parks,
multiple parks. That's why I
around
don't
the
think
world. So it's not just
yeah.
over here stateside.
Mhm.
But the first thing I thought of course, was building a fifth park, and I don't know if they would do that
I don't know that that's
yet.
enough.
I think what would end up happening is they will put the money, obviously the 17 or 20 billion or
Mhm.
whatever, towards Disney Magic Kingdom, and then they will go through the parks again one more,
Yeah.
Hollywood or maybe Animal Kingdom, then Hollywood, Epcot, one more
Mhm.
rotation around, building new
Yeah.
lands, new rides, things like that. Maybe in, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years, they might look at doing a new park. They've got land for it, but that's a costly
That is a
investment.
costly endeavor, and I just think
Mm,
there's so many more expansions that they have where they can put on an existing park, and with
right.
that kind of investment, they can do some really cool
They
things. Because
really, really could.
I think that there is space in Animal Kingdom for expansion.
Oh
Like,
yeah. Yeah.
Hollywood is maybe a little bit more landlocked, but you
Yeah.
could do something.
I mean,
Absolutely.
what if they built some sort of walkway or some sort of travel between, Hollywood and Epcot, where it's not
Oh,
just a
well,
boat. I
you
mean,
mean
like it actually,
differently
like,
or
yeah,
separate from
like
the
different. Like I'm
walkway?
thinking Hogwarts Express between the two Universal parks.
Oh,
Build some sort of train or some sort
yeah.
of something that would fit both themes that would take you from one
Oh,
park
that
to the
would be
next.
so
You have to
cool.
have a park to park ticket to go on it. How
Ye
cool would that be?
That would be so cool.
Having a connection of maybe the Skyliner over to Animal Kingdom. I don't know if it could go up to Magic Kingdom. I don't know if it would make it that far, but having connecting those parks by like some sort of train, monorail, something where you're not having to drive. It's over at the corner. You know, just building onto each park would be amazing. Now, it's easy to look at Universal and say, well, you know, they're building Epic Universe, so why can't Disney do that? Just remember that Universal has 2 parks there, 1 park in California, a very small park, and a couple of parks around the world. They don't have a cruise line. They don't have Adventures by Disney to deal with. They don't have all these hotels, like 30 hotels, just on one property. And they don't have, you know, land the size of Manhattan. They've got, you know, they've got a couple.
They're a smaller footprint. So, they have
exactly.
A smaller
so a lot of their money will go a long way. And if you look at the maps, they're so landlocked. Epic Universe is like down the road from their 2 parks.
Well, it's just like when they tried to build Endless Summer. Well, not they tried. They did build.
They built Endless Summer, right?
But you know, but it's across the highway.
Correct. And you can walk it, but it's like a 30-minute walk. And I tell my clients, don't try to walk it. Don't try to do it. It's take the bus, which the bus system there works pretty well. Jen, do you know what a bus is? The bus.
You know what? I do, because when we stayed as an agency, then we took the bus. It was an interesting experience. I'd never been on one, really.
Yeah. Just for the audience, the whole team went down to Universal and stayed on property in the summer. We had to convince Jen that was the deluxe premier hotel, because otherwise she wouldn't stay there. We told her afterwards it was the value, and she was not happy with us. But you know, she was like, "Well, that makes sense because it doesn't look deluxe-y, but I thought it was." And you know, you had to convince her. Had to convince her otherwise. So let's talk about some roller coasters, Jen. We did in 2020. We did our top 10 roller coasters at Disney World, Disneyland, and Universal parks. Now we tried to leave out, you know, we left out the Gatorland, and we left out the Legoland and the Sea World and the Six Flags, because who doesn't love the Georgia Scorcher at Six Flags? And whatever Hershey parks up there, we left all those parks out, all those coasters out. We wanted to look at only the Orlando parks, and of course, California Adventure, Disneyland, and you know, I've never been to Universal out there. I don't even know what they have out there in terms of coasters. Maybe they have something, I don't know. And Jen, this was a couple of years ago, so Primeval Whirl has been closed. So that probably cannot make this year's list. But let me run through real quick for the audience. Let me run through what your top 10 was in 2020.
Yeah.
Number 10 for you was Rip Ride Rocket at Universal. Number 10 for me was the Barnstormer, very sentimental roller coaster. Number 9 was Mine Train for you, and Rock and Roller Coaster for myself. Number 8 was The Mummy at Universal. Number 8 was Seven Dwarfs Mine Train for me. Number 7 was The Hulk. And Big Thunder for myself. Number 6 was Big Thunder for you, and Rip Ride Rocket at Universal Studios for myself. Number 5, California Screamin', and you insisted on calling it that, even though it wasn't Credit Coaster. You said, you know what? I know it is. In my heart, it's California Screamin'. It was still fairly new changeover, so I get that. And number 5 for me was Everest. Number 4, Slinky Dog for you and for myself. Number 3, your top 3 was Rock and Roller Coaster at 3, Space Mountain Disneyland at number 2, and Everest was number 1. For me, it was Space Mountain Disneyland at number 3. The Hulk was number 2, and Credit Coaster was number 1, because I call it by its proper name. Now, that was in 2020 We didn't have this list in 2021.
The heart wants what it wants, David. The heart.
I understand that. I get that. I get it. You know, my heart wants Primeval World to stay, and Tough to Be a Bug did not go away, but it is.
Yeah, your heart's wrong.
So, yeah, my heart is wrong, unfortunately. Sorry about that. But last year, so we decided to redo this list last year and do something kind of fun with it, because we wanted to update our list, and now we're going to kind of make it a yearly list. So last year, your top 10. I'll run this 10 through 1 real quick. Number 10 was The Mummy. Number 9 was Hagrids. Number 8 was Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. Number 7 was Incredicoaster. You called it by its proper name. Number 6 was Slinky Dog Dash. Number 5 was Rock and Roller Coaster. 4 was Space Mountain Disneyland. Good distinction there. Number 3 was Expedition Everest. 2 was a Velocicoaster. And number 1 was Guardians. And real quick, 10 through 1 for me: Rock and Roller Coaster, Rip Ride Rocket, Everest, Space Mountain Disneyland again, Big Thunder, Incredicoaster. Hagrids was 4, Slinky Dog Dash, Velocicoaster, and Guardians was 3. Now, at the time, we did not have TRON as a coaster, because TRON had not been opened yet. So we didn't have TRON going on at that point. So that was not an option for us. So we're going to run through our top 10 again. We're going to kind of revisit this list and see what's dropped off, see what's around, see what exists, and that kind of thing. So my question, Jen, I'll let you kick us off. But how do you rank these coasters for you? Like, what do you look at? Thrill factor, queue, line, experience. What makes you go, you know what, this coaster is number 10, this coaster is 1, and here's the factors?
You know what? I of course I look for thrill factor, like, for part of it. But then another part of it is nostalgia. And I feel like the older I get, the more I want the nostalgia piece of it as well.
Of course.
You know, so I mean, thrill factor is always important, but I have to have that like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine not riding this roller coaster. In terms of the rankings, that's tough. And I actually have some arrows and like scratch outs. And I mean, I should have rewritten the list, but let's be real. At any point, like I say, with the many top 10s, most of these are I could judge one way or another, like you know, on any given day. So,
real quick,
like
random sidebar. Do we know how to spell zhuzh? That's a word I hear a lot.
Well,
How to zhuzh it up.
Melissa Reagan wrote it. Every time I think this word because we talked about it and she typed a comment and it was something like ZZUZH or something like that. It had
ZZTOP maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, ZZ Top. Yeah. It was something like that.
Zhuzh. Sounds like something would begin with a J, like a J, whatever. So,
but yeah, I don't know that we actually know. If you guys know, comments.
That's a new episode. Zhuzh. How to spell zhuzh? Quasi producer Heather, I know you're out there. You need to let us know how to spell zhuzh. See if you can find that on the worldwide interwebs. So yeah, Jen, continue with your thoughts on the coasters and how you define them.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I could definitely kind of move them one way or another, but these are things that make my heart happy for one reason or another. And sometimes with the ranking, did come like if I had to choose, like, okay, well, this one's more thrilling.
Right.
But I have a deeper connection to this coaster. I would put the one I have a deeper connection to higher than the thrill factor. So that's where I am currently with that. Ask me tomorrow. I might change my mind.
I like it. So, and I see there are a few people watching, which is exciting. So, if you're in there, feel free to comment. Feel free to tell us what we're getting right, what we're getting wrong, and what you think as well. But let's kick it off with our number 10, Jen, and I'll kind of give my roller coaster thoughts as well. But go ahead and give me your number 10.
Oh, okay. So my number 10 is actually going to be Hagrids this year, which I know dropped down from previous years. Now, again, because I'm really focusing a little bit more on the things that I've connected with over the zhuzh, ZHUZH. Look at that. It's in the comments. Thank you.
I love it.
Hey Nathan. But
Aussie Nate. Thank you, man.
Yeah, but that's really kind of where I'm at with that. I do not have as deep of a connection to Hagrids. It is a fantastic coaster. It is a long coaster. To this day, I've still never been on the freaking motorbike. I've only ever been in the sidecar.
I've never been on the sidecar. So you and I need to ride it together, and then we can switch it up and just agree to it and say, you know what, motorbike and sidecar.
Next time we are at Universal, that's happening.
But it is one of those attractions like, I want to ride on because the line is so long. We've talked about this. A lot of these things we've talked about before. So if you've heard this episode last year, you're going to hear kind of some of the same points, but we'll give an updated version of these points. Yeah, the line is so long and it does break down a lot. By the time you get there, you're like, I want to ride where I want to ride, where I'm comfortable. So I like riding the motorbike itself. And I'm like, do I really want to ride the sidecar? Fine. And I haven't done it yet. And I will at some point, especially if you and I go on the coaster together, that we can ride the sidecar. I'll ride the sidecar. So number 10 for me, and I'm kind of the same way with you. It's a nostalgia factor. It's also the queue. I look at the queue. How fast does the ride go? Is it effective? Is the queue just like, and I'm thinking, like Six Flags is a great example. Atlanta is 2.5 hours from here. I haven't been in like 2 or 3 years, but in my younger days, as a teenager, 20 years old, 20s, whatever, we would go to Six Flags for the day. And they made feeble attempts to make their queue kind of fun, sort of, kind of, but not really. I think the Batman ride had this incredibly, massively long queue that when it first opened, it was used, but then as the ride gets older, it's like Voyage of the Little Mermaid in Magic Kingdom. Once it's been there for a few years, nobody needs that long queue. You're just walking, trying to get there and walking. The Superman ride they have out there is a great ride, but the signs are all faded. They have like the characters on signs telling you who they are, and they're like the sun beaten and worn. And the Riddler ride they have out there is just basically switchbacks is all it is. The painted green with some question marks on it. It's like, oh, this is fun. And so to me, queuing and theming does have something to do with it. So for that matter, number 10 for me is going to be Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. This is one that I did not have on my list last year. And I put a little emphasis into the queue this year because I love the queue. I love how they have the big fans going on there. A lot of it's shaded, even though, it's summertime. The shade still helps. And of course, once you get in there, it's very nice. It's this incredible thing where like there's this wall of air as you're walking in, and all of a sudden you're like, it's like you're walking into the air and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm air conditioned. What the heck?
And you're like, can I get trapped right here? Everybody stop ahead of me.
And you're looking at the people behind you going, you poor schmoes back there right behind me are in the hot sun and I'm in the air. the theming is great, and they tried to do it with little diamond thing where you kind of spin the barrels and get the diamonds on the ceiling and stuff, and that's kind of fun. But and I love the ride itself, and it's an easy ride, but it's fun. The animatronics in the mine are great.
Oh yeah.
The pictures are fantastic. The songs are great, and then it crests that hill and kind of kicks off, and it's a fun ride. It really is. The line sucks because it's so long, but yes, number 10 for me is Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Number 9 on your list now, Jen.
All right, 9 on my list. And again, this is going to be, I struggle with this a little bit. I'm going to go with Rock and Roller Coaster, and it hurts my heart just a little bit because I think the thrill factor on this one is great. The launch is killer. It would be way higher up if I was just rating on the launch. I love the smell of it, like, with like if you're going in the underground. I love the whole like bit with Aerosmith. So, but I think at this point, like I still love it, but I am to the point where I don't have to write it every single time.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want it to change. I just don't want to go on it every single time.
Right. I am. The last time we talked about this, actually, on last year, was they were looking at Aerosmith, and they were going to go down for a refurb, and the whole thing about like Steven Tyler, and also the contract was coming up and the copyright, what are they going to do? And Disney's like, we don't know what we're going to do. We can't tell you. And then, of course, hey, it's Aerosmith, the Rock and Roller Coaster still, which is fun. I'm like you. This is a ride that it's kind of gone down to that second level of attractions where if I don't do it every time, it's okay. It doesn't break my heart. Like Tower of Terror, got to do it every time.
Exactly, every time. Do not change it.
Did not make my list this year. I actually took it off in favor of Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. It's just, again, one of those that if I make it great, if not, that's okay. Number 9 on my list, I want to take it over to California Adventure, and that is the Incredicoaster. I love the launch on this coaster. I love the theming on this coaster. I love the Incredibles. It's my favorite Pixar film. And it's just, to me, it's just a traditional coaster. It's massive. It's huge. As you're walking onto that pier, it's just kind of drapes over everything. I love being able to walk under the coaster itself as you're walking across that pier, as the coaster's just coming overhead, and kind of thing, and people are screaming. That hill, the loop is great. I just love the inversion on it. It's just a really fun
nice
coaster. So
that's great.
Yes, number 8.
Okay, so my number 8 is actually Incredicoaster.
I was going to say, I think I figured since you weren't talking about it, you had it on your list somewhere, but Incredicoaster.
Yeah, that's why I didn't talk too much about it. So I love, I love the whole outdoor. It's a fully outdoor coaster, which I always enjoy that because that's like the traditional what I grew up with. I love Incredibles. It's fine. In my heart is still California Screaming because the first time I wrote it, that's what it was. But it's fine. The Incredibles are cute, and so it's a cute ride with it. I just still think it's very thrilling. That is a must ride. I don't ever want to not do that one, and it's just like fun because it's like the whole carnival atmosphere in Pixar Pier, and it's some of those traditional rides. So 8 is Incredicoaster, which I think is maybe down a little bit from last year, but we have some new stuff. So
well, for me too, there's also the Jack's Nom Nom cookies, little kiosk as you're coming off the coaster. Right around that little area, get a little carton of milk and the Nom Nom cookie, and just stand over a trash can and dunk your cookie, which is what I've done. Dunk my cookie, it's warm, and just eat right there as you're done with the coaster. The pictures are great. It's a fun time. It really is. And I think this one and Rock and Roller Coaster are two coasters that are fun to take people on that have never been. It's fun, especially if they're thrill seekers, because these are two of the most thrilling attractions you're going to find in any of the parks. So your number 7 is what? No, sorry.
I was going to say, wait a minute, you didn't give your number 8 yet.
See, you both having the Incredicoaster threw me off, and so I was thinking, okay, whatever. So my number 8, we're going to stay over at Disneyland. This will probably happen a lot, folks. My number 8, we're going to stay over at Disneyland and go with Space Mountain over in Disneyland.
Nice.
Now, that's an important distinction because Space Mountain in Disney World is just, I can't do it. I can do it, but I do it one time and one time only.
I still do love that one, but
if you've been on the Matterhorn at Disneyland, that's like our Space Mountain. It's rickety and it's rocky and it's like all over the place. Again, I call it an age indicator. When you get off the attraction, you are reminded how old you are and how like your back hurts, or if you have knee problems, your knee hurts, and that kind of thing. So all good times. So yeah, Coach DeBello up in the chat over at Disney Vero Beach Resort.
Oh, hey.
Now, I think Coach has been a couple times. I kind of know this guy, but Jen, you've been to Vero Beach, I'm assuming.
I have. Oh no, I've been to
Hilton Head.
Thank you.
Okay. Got well.
Yeah,
I was
the
going to say.
Zero I've heard is amazing.
I was going to say, as the expert, you should see if you throw out any tips or anything, any places he needs to go. But I guess Coach is going to be the expert because you
that.
have,
Yeah, I know
Jen,
that.
you own a
I mean,
travel agency and you haven't been. Jen, I'm
it's
disappointed.
impossible to get into. Don't think I
That's
haven't
true.
tried.
It's true.
Like impossible to get
very
into.
true. Very true. So Space Mountain Disneyland, it's easier too because you're sitting next to somebody. You're not like lined up in a on a rocket ship, whatever.
Yeah.
I just think that the theming is better. I think the way it's put together is better. And we've talked about this before. I just like how the music is in your car versus just being like, and you hear the music and it go by like this. And when they do the overlays, it looks cooler and looks more fun and everything. I'm just a big fan of it. And so it's really, really good. Captain Alabama, hello,
Hey,
sir.
what's
How
up,
are
Captain
you? Yeah, I know that guy
Alabama?
too. I'm glad you're here. So yeah, that's number 8 on my list. Number 7 now on your
So,
list.
okay, number 7 on my list is and it hurts. It actually hurts me a little bit to put it right here, but this is where I have to put it. Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. I still love Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. It is a nostalgic ride. It is a must ride, but the thrill factor isn't as high as some other ones.
Right.
So, like I have to, the theming, of course, is wonderful. The queue still does get a little bit warm. It does.
It does. It does.
But
Well, this is also my number 7, so we can talk about it together.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Great.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, you're right. The thrill factor is not necessarily there, but I think the nostalgia factor makes up for that. Because it is, I mean, the wildest ride in the wilderness, obviously.
It is.
But it is kind of rickety and everything. You sit in the back and you're just shaking all over the place.
You're right.
This
In the
is
front
just
when
one
you're
of those,
going over,
like,
you're like,
it's almost like a rite of passage. I mean, it really is, because if you're a coaster fan, what I tell my clients when they were talking about coasters and their kids, I'm like, start them on the Barnstormer, move up the Mine Train. Big Thunder's the next step, and then from there you can kind of branch off to the other coasters and everything, and that's kind of the as you move up the chain there. But now, do you have a preference between Disneyland and Disney World and the Big Thunder?
You know what's funny is I actually was thinking about this, making this list, because I'm like, should I specify? I don't.
You don't have to.
No, I do not have a strong preference. I really like both for different reasons. Now, I like the effects that are in Disneyland that Disney World doesn't have, or or doesn't have anymore. One of the two, as the case may be. But quasi producer Heather is saying Disneyland is better. If you were forcing me to pick, I would give the edge to Disneyland, but I still love both.
I have not been on Disneyland's enough to be able to say, you know what, I like this aspect better than the one at Disney World. I kind of put them both together, and I can't really pick a preference. I mean, I might say Disney World because I just know it so much better. But I do love it. I think that you get better pictures from the one at Disneyland because you're a little closer to the track where you can stand on that bridge and the coaster comes right at you. The background I had was actually Big Thunder from Disneyland, and it kind of came out on me, so couldn't do it as my hand is all blurry. It's kind of so weird. But yeah, I don't have a preference, but I love Big Thunder. And like I said, the nostalgia, the goat, the mountains, the wildest ride in the wilderness. Once you get into the actual house barn thing itself, the queue is actually kind of fun. It's very rustic and everything. So cool. So yeah, I like it. So that's number 7. Number 6 on your list would be what?
Number 6 on my list, you've already talked about, but it's Space Mountain Disneyland. That is the superior Space Mountain. Even though I still nostalgically love Worlds, Lands is better. I will say I'm gonna give the edge to the entry queue to World, because I love the Star Tunnel walking down through. That one I love. However, everything else is superior about the Disneyland version, and I love the was it Halloween? It's Ghost Galaxy, right?
Yeah, something.
I've ridden that one a couple times, and it's super fun. So that's a must ride.
The queue for Space Mountain and Disney World is a little, I don't say a little much. I'm also used to pushing a kid in a stroller. And of course, he's now 11 years old, so we have the special needs stroller, and we're not sure how much longer we're going to be able to do that. But once you go down the hill or back up that hill, that can be a trek.
It's a trek. That is a trek.
Especially if you're tired. It's in the day. You're like, hey, Jen, let's go ride Space Mountain real quick before the park closes. Okay, and we're kind of shuffling in there, and then you got the hill, and you're like, trying to make it up, and so
I don't know about that.
It's tough. And have they moved where the pictures are taken? Because it used to be right at the beginning, and I feel like that's been changed.
At the Star Tunnel?
Yeah. On the ride itself. Maybe I'm making that up. Maybe
I don't know. In World, it's still in the same place.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think they've changed it in Land.
Okay.
I can't imagine where else they'd move it to.
Maybe randomly, maybe I'm thinking about Haunted Mansion where they've changed.
You might be thinking about that.
Yeah, because they like I can never find where they take the pictures in Haunted Mansion. I feel like
It's
they
the third. I think it's the third portrait where the tigress.
Mhm.
You know the
Yeah,
painting.
yeah.
I think it's that
There's
one.
so many pictures that my wife Steph and I have of us looking around or looking goofy because we were like, oh, I think that was the picture. So, which makes sense. The lightning there, of course, that's going to be the
That's
Hatbox
right.
Ghost right after that, correct?
I believe as
Yeah, the
memory
Disney World.
serves.
Disney World.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Yep. So, so number 6 on my list is going to be Hagrid's Magical Motorbike Adventure. I don't know the full
Oh,
title.
okay. Yeah.
Motorbike
Hagrid's magical
Experience Ride.
motorbike
Yeah,
magical
it's
creatures.
Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure.
Yeah.
You go through the long queue, and some of it's pretty
Very
themed. You go
long.
through the huts and
Oh
stuff and
yeah.
everything, and it's a really well put together ride. It tells a great story because you're
It
going through
does.
the forest, you're seeing the crazy creatures and stuff. The animatronics are actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
It goes backwards. There are 7 launches. You have a
Mhm.
drop, which nobody was expecting when they first got on it. I didn't know it was actually
Nope.
there, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh,
That takes me by surprise every time.
right. Not a bad drop, but it is a small drop. And it's a great ride. Unfortunately,
It is.
I think the reason I put it at 6 on my list is because I haven't done it enough to really like absorb the ride itself.
Yeah.
I've done it like 3 times, I think.
Mhm.
And that's a ride that like I need to ride it several times in a row and look at
Yeah.
something different every time I go, and not because I'm concentrating so much on the ride itself.
Yeah.
I forget to look at the theming and everything I'm looking around at, and because the ride's exciting, and then I get
It
off of
is.
it, and people are like, "Oh, did you see the hippogriff? Did you see this, that?" And I'm like, I missed all of that because I was just looking ahead, going woo, and it's yeah. So to recap, for yours, number 10 was Hagrid, number 9 was Rock and Roller Coaster, 8 was Incredicoaster, 7 Big Thunder, and 6 was Space Mountain Disneyland for you. So let's talk about our top 5. Your number 5 on your list. Here we go.
My number 5. You're gonna yell at me because I'm gonna say this one first, and you're gonna get mad. It's Slinky
Okay.
Dog.
Slinky Dog. That's okay.
Yeah. So Slinky Dog Dash.
Mhm.
To me, this is the one I would expect it to go on it and be like, it's fine. Like it's a little bit above the Barnstormer. It's like
Right.
maybe like the speed of Big Thunder. And Brady and I both went in with this attitude of like, it's gonna be fine. We were up early, like we waited freaking 3 hours for it on opening day. But we went on that and we were like, oh, that was really fun. And like the 3,
Right.
there's like the 3 hills.
And it goes
in a row.
fairly high too.
It is fairly high.
That's the
It's
thing.
fairly fast.
Yeah.
And it's super smooth. So
Right.
yeah, I'll never forget the first time I was on that, and the second time I was on that, and from the Divas, Christine was on there, and she didn't realize it was a roller coaster.
Yep.
That story will never
Which
die.
and you've told the complete story before, but it's remarkable how she went through the entire queue. Which, by the way, for people who've never been, the queue itself, the ride is right there.
The ride is
It's
there.
not like you're in like Space Mountain where you can't see the ride till the very,
Correct.
very end. The
You're
ride is
seeing it
right
the whole
there.
time.
As you're walking up, there is Slinky Dog coming by the tracks, around you. And it's funny to me that she gets on and she's like, "Oh, this is a coaster. Oh my gosh!" And it's like, I what?
Oh,
So
it's hilarious.
that's a her problem. There's nobody else but her. So
Ding,
for
ding,
that,
ding.
so
It was so
exactly.
funny.
So number 5 on my list, I'm going to do Tron's Light Cycle Power Ride. There are many reasons I love this ride. I think this ride is great. I think it's very different. It's really, really cool. They took up a property that I dare say wasn't that popular to most people under 30 right now, or a lot of people probably have never heard of it. My kid never heard of Tron.
Right.
With a movie that wasn't
This is like in the 80s initially, right?
Yeah, 80s. I mean, it was a breakthrough movie in the
Yeah.
early 80s. Tron Legacy came out, I think, 2010, and it
2010?
wasn't
Yeah.
that popular of a movie. So they could have done something different with this, but they made it work, and it's really
They
cool.
did.
You get the motorbikes, you lean the light cycles, you lean over, you hold the handlebars. I think the ride's a little too short. And I do think the storytelling they're trying to tell is a little more complicated than it deserves to be for this ride itself. I think if you ask John Q, Disney guest on the street, hey, what exactly are you trying to do in Tron? Most people would not have a clue that you're on, I think, the green team and you're trying to eliminate the orange team from
Wait, aren't you on the blue team and you're
or maybe
eliminating
we're on the
red
blue team? I'm thinking green and
think
orange
it's the
for
blue
Mission
team.
Space. Blue
What?
team?
Wait a
Well, I don't
second.
know. It's
I think it's
whatever.
blue. Oh, you just muted yourself, Dala. You totally muted yourself. No, you actually hit mute. You hit mute. Unmute your mic. Oh, it says your mic's not connected.
My mic cord came out. So it automatically, and of course
That's what happens when you talk with your hands.
I know it's like live. If we were just editing, then that would you'd never hear this, right?
All now you're hearing it.
I have during all the shows that nobody ever hears because I'm like, nope, got to make myself look good. It's not good. Not this time. So, yeah, Tron. I think it really works as a ride though, and the downside I think is the queue. I think the queue is fun once you get inside the building. They did not learn a lesson from Slinky Dog Dash because a lot of the switchbacks are in the hot, blazing sun, which is insane. And I'm like, I don't understand. $60 billion. How about we peel off 3,000 and buy some really big umbrellas and just coat that thing some shade? Increase the room rates like 2 cents per room, and in a week you'll have enough to buy a couple of umbrellas. Come on, Josh, you got money. Donate an umbrella. But so I think that's the downside to Tron. But Tron's a fun ride. I think it's just a lot of fun. And it's cool too.
More on that later.
Number 4 for you now.
Number 4 for me is Expedition Everest.
Ooh, me too.
Oh, yay! Okay, because I can't not love this ride. I don't know, like the backwards, the whole Yeti, like you don't know what's happening, even though the Yeti is a disco Yeti at this point. That's fine. Like
$60 billion. Do you think they could fix the Yeti?
No, you've heard the stories. They would literally like have to take off half of the mountain.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
That Yeti's not.
It's I mean, that's not even a money thing. It is. They would have to shut the ride down for like 6 months. So
I don't even know that I care enough that I want them to sacrifice that anymore.
Right. Because there's not I guess with Flight of Passage it makes it easier. But I don't feel like there's another big thrill ride in Animal Kingdom that could take the place of Everest. So maybe if they build like another coaster or another something, then they can say, okay, everybody's going to that. But
because like right now there's Dinosaur, and that's not big enough to detract. Now maybe they retheme it, maybe that helps it, but I don't think there's not enough.
Right. Yeah, the Yeti is did you see the swooping Yeti? Did you get to ride it whenever the Yeti was me too.
I did.
2007, right after it opened, I got to ride it.
I was like, oh my gosh.
Exactly. It was fantastic watching that Yeti. But Jody Rhodey has come out and said several times that there's no way they can do it.
There's no way.
They shut the whole thing down. For me, the queue is phenomenal. It's one of my favorite queues in all of the parks because the whole story, which you can understand, unlike Tron, the whole story is that you're going up the mountain and there is a group, a mountain climbing group that disappeared because of the Yeti. And there's all these clips and everything, and the legend of the Forbidden Mountain, and the Yeti might be real. We don't really know, and we're going on this venture. Exactly.
Ripped up tents.
Right. We're going through the mountain now on this venture, but will we make it? Will we see the Yeti? We don't know. And of course, you come out to a gift shop where they have little cute plush Yetis that all look all nice and adorable. So and we're like, isn't that the one that killed all those people that are in the queue? Those news clippings?
No, it's a different one. It's a nice one. Duh.
A lot of good hidden Mickeys in the queue as well. You can find all through there. They have the big footprint and stuff. So it's pretty cool. Expedition Everest for me. Number 3 now on your list.
All right, 3 is Velocicoaster. Velocicoaster. So I was stunned by this ride in such a good way. It's amazing. It is such a good ride. Yes. I know quasi-producer Heather is like chiming in on chat because she's like, yes. It is literally, I can't even tell you. It keeps going faster and faster. It almost takes your breath away. It is a smooth ride. Like shockingly, it's not one. And I can actually hold my hands up too, although sometimes the centrifugal force kind of gets like crazy. Anyway, I just can't say enough about it. It's really good.
I believe that the big loop that you see there is called the top hat. I think
so.
Is that right? The top of that hat is phenomenal. I mean, if you think enough to look around where you are, it's pretty amazing. But it goes so fast. It goes super fast, goes over the water. And it's one of those that I, again, want to ride over and over because I want to breathe all of it in. I want to, like, what are we looking at? What are we seeing here? That kind of thing.
Yes.
It just looks, it's a phenomenal queue as well.
Oh,
you got the Raptors in the queue. It looks great. So, we'll get to that in a second. Number 3 for me on my list is Slinky Dog Dash. And this is really more sentimental than anything else because my kid is a huge Slinky Dog Dash fan. This is his favorite attraction. This is why Barnstormer was on my list 2 years ago because he loved the Barnstormer so much, but Slinky is his favorite. And, for those not watching or those listening or whatever, my kids lives on the spectrum, and he's nonverbal. He communicates a lot with his hands and his expressions, and he will ask for Slinky Dog. He wants Slinky because he loves the ride so much. We've had it before. We've had several magical moments where the cast members will allow us to either stay on the ride, or they would, take us off when it was over and then let us sit in the front.
Yeah.
And he loves the queue. And as soon as like clockwork, as soon as we come off that ride, he immediately runs to that bridge and watches it take off. Because when you're standing there on the kind of the viewing bridge, you see the Slinky Dog come up, and you hear the beep, beep, beep. Here we go. Hang on. And he comes shooting across there, and at night when the lights are going and everything, it is just like Campbell-Palooza. He's just nuts over that. So for me, Slinky Dog will always hold a special place in my heart. I love the ride too. Like we said before, it's really high. And I would say do Big Thunder before I would do this, and only because of the height. And Big Thunder, this one's smoother. Big Thunder maybe a little faster, but like the height is crazy on this one. You get pretty high up there with the dips and everything as you go through that big 3 dip and stuff. So I'm a big fan of Slinky. So number 2 on your list now.
All right. You're going to disagree with me a little bit, and that's okay, because this is where I have Tron. And so here's the thing. So, is the story the strongest story ever? No, it's fine. I mean, they tell the story fine in the queue. Full disclosure, have not seen the movie either of them.
It's okay. That's all right.
At some point, I'm sure I'll watch them. But I will say, first of all, I love the vibe with the cool, like the neon lights, and I love how it looks. I think just aesthetically, it's very aesthetically pleasing once you're indoors.
Right.
Yeah. Now, I also have to give my disclaimers. I have never waited in that switchback queue outside. I've only ever done an individual lightning lane, because that's just, we were like, we'll just individual lightning lane. Number 2, I've only ever ridden in the front, because we've waited for the front every single time. And number 3, doing that at night, like, clinched it for me.
I haven't done it at night. That's the thing. I have not gotten it at night yet.
So front row at night just upped it for me. Like, the thrill factor was so much, like, with the lights going and you're like outside. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, it was, yes. So, and Brady, like, I think this may have taken his number 1 spot. Like, he loves Tron, and he doesn't get motion. Like, Guardians can make him motion sick.
Of course. Yeah.
Because that's a very intense one. That doesn't happen on Tron. So I do wish it was a little bit longer. However, I don't feel like when it ends, I'm not like, oh, is that it? I'm just like, oh, I wish it would be a little longer. But I love it for what it is. So, yeah.
I think that's great. And because I have not done it at night, that may be why it's not higher on my list at number 5.
Yeah.
And because from the distance, it looked gorgeous at night with the blue lights and everything. It's as if Test Track were a roller coaster, it would be that with the lights and stuff.
Yes.
And maybe that's why one of the reasons they're redoing Test Track, because now, like, Tron resembles Test Track. And, I've heard Test Track nicknamed Tron Track because it has those same elements.
Because it has its elements
with the lights and stuff. Exactly.
And so the other thing with individual lightning lane is that allowed us to pick, like, okay, we are going to pick the latest time slot so that we know it's going to be dark.
Yeah.
Whereas
when we did it was just like you grab one and you pay for it, or you do Genie Plus for it, which is what we've done. But we've also got the DAS pass. So a lot of times it was like we set it up. Okay, we're coming back at 1:00 and we would just come then.
Just do it then, yeah.
But I cannot wait to ride it at night. Maybe in November I'll be able to do that.
Maybe in November,
really great. That would be really, really cool.
Absolutely.
Number 2 for me is Velocicoaster over in Universal Studios Islands of Adventure. It is just, as we said before, it's fun and it's fast and it's different, and it's a true traditional coaster where you get in, you strap in, you shoot through, big loop, crazy elements, screaming dinosaurs at you. It's fun. Everything we said before, it still goes. It's great. This was actually number 2 on my list last year. And so it's kind of staying in the same place, which means that number 1 in our list, say it with me, Jen, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind.
The whole thing. Yes. And quasi-producer Heather is agreeing right now. The top one. It has to be Guardians.
All right, so when you got a client that comes to you and says, Jen, I've heard a lot about this Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. What is this coaster thingy? Is this like Space Mountain or Big Thunder or Haunted Mansion? What is this?
Well, it's in the dark like Space Mountain. We could say that. It is in the dark like Space Mountain. It's nothing you've ever experienced. It is a roller coaster, but the ride vehicle moves. And it doesn't move like back and forth like Seven Dwarfs. Like
Right.
it doesn't just like swing back and
Doesn't
forth.
rock back and forth, right?
No, it's moving. It's like
It's an omni mover.
It's omni mover. Yes, omni
Yeah.
mover, and it does things you don't expect.
Mhm.
It is thrilling, and you have amazing music, especially when you have September.
Of course.
So I just tell it it's nothing you and it's long. Like
It is. It's a
it's
several minute
long.
ride. It's several minutes.
Yeah.
The cool thing too about this one is the queue sets this up perfectly. And
Mhm.
when you get inside, it's like you have to go through a series of rooms to understand the story.
Yes. Pay
You're going
attention.
through, you're fighting the big dudes. I forget their names,
Oh,
whatever.
oh
Not
my
the
gosh.
humanoids, the Centurions, the element, whatever.
Yeah.
They were big in the Eternals, but nobody really cared about the Eternals from Marvel. So, those guys. So yeah, it's great. You got Terry Crews, who is now an iconic figure. Epcot. People of Epcot.
Epcotians.
So, we're on. You gotta tell me these things. Hello. So he's becoming like an iconic figure now, and I think Terry Crews. I've never talked to the man, obviously, but I would imagine he's just delighted that people know him from this now, which I think is great. And then, of course, the only downside is that cattle call. Once it finally opens up and you go start going to things, it's like this massive. It's almost like Haunted Mansion where you have to get in there. It's like everybody's going and running and trying to get there. Of course, the front row is where you want to be because it's the best row of all.
Yeah, but what row is that,
9,
David?
Row 9 is great as well because you end up first when it goes backwards. And then row 5 and 6, if you want to kind of something in the middle, you're like, I don't want it to be crazy.
He needs 5 and 6.
Right. And we brought up Haunted Mansion. If you think about Haunted Mansion, how it turns when you look at things, how it's automatically turning, it's a lot of that same aspect. Like the ride
focusing your direction
a lot faster, a lot faster. Yeah. The only thing that I describe this as the Gravitron from the county fair. When you go around that globe towards the end, it's that pressure of like, I can do this once. I have to give it a little bit of time. Then I do it again because now I'm getting older. I don't do this on a full stomach or an empty stomach, kind of somewhere in the middle. But the ride is just phenomenal. It's my favorite coaster right now, favorite coaster overall. I don't know that we'll have an updated list next year because there's really nothing coming next year, as far as I know. So we'll have to wait till we go to Epic Universe when they have like 5 new coasters coming.
and then
of course, yes. And then of course, by next year, September, hopefully we'll hear something, or actually August, we'll hear D23 of next year.
Yes.
When they'll hopefully be announcing the Villains Park and all the things that quasi-producer Heather and I put forth as different coasters and rides. They'll be announcing all of those things because I'm sure Josh heard our show. Probably so.
I mean, probably.
So. Yeah, exactly. Hulk obviously did not make our list this year as well.
And the Mummy fell off.
I was going to say the Mummy fell off. Is that the only one that came off your list this year to add on Tron?
I think the Mummy was the only one that came off, and I do still love it. That needs an honorable mention because I really still do.
Well, and I think honorable mention for me would be the Barnstormer. I do love the Barnstormer. I took off Rip Ride Rocket as well off of my list only because I haven't done it in a couple of years.
Same.
And I'm hearing
it's still good.
What I'm hearing is that the music selection where you can usually choose has been taken, like it's diminished. They only have a few songs now instead of a whole playlist you can choose from. There are speculations, rumors they may take the ride out. I don't know.
That wouldn't surprise me just with some of the other renos that they're doing, like to maybe theme it into something else.
They have to make it an IP. They can't just leave it traditional and standing. They have to do something with it. They have to put the character on it.
Everybody's doing IP.
You can't do original stories anymore. Why would you do that? You have to add, a Minions coaster or a Shrek coaster or whatever coaster. Something. I don't know. The Shining coaster. I don't know. Wouldn't that be fun? So that's our list of our top 10 coasters. Jen, we got some exciting things coming up. Of course, next week I will be gone. I will be in the Northwest. I will be in Alaska and Astoria, visiting the Goonies house in Seattle, catching fish at the fish market, which will be all kinds of fun. And of course, in 2 weeks, you're going to London. Is that correct?
Yes, London and Paris.
With hashtag Kyla, our frequent show contributor and my good friend, our good friend, going to London there. So we'll be back together, I guess, in a couple of weeks. Roth from Wyoming. Hello, sir. I see he's coming on there, which, by the way, let me promo him real quick. He's got a podcast called Good Day for a Movie Podcast. He and his guys get together and do basically one movie per episode, and it's really kind of fun to listen to. So if you're a movie fan, check out Good Day for a Movie Podcast. But also, Jen, we're going to be doing, starting in October, our own Patreon.
Yes.
Now we've talked about this before, and I've been kind of lacking in getting it set up, but we're going to have a couple of tiers, anywhere from $2 to like $8 a month, where you can support the show, have extra content. Jenn will be watching Iron Man for the first time. And so we're going to kind of do a series of extra episodes in Patreon, only for the Patreon subscribers, that Jenn will be walking through the MCU. We'll walk through the MCU. We'll try to do, whatever. We might do 3 extra episodes a month. We might do 1 a month or 1 in 5 weeks because we're busy or whatever, but we're going to walk through every movie in the MCU. Jenn will kind of review it. We'll talk about it. There's that. And I'll be doing some extra stuff. We'll maybe put some extra video and fun stuff up just for Patreon. And maybe every couple of months we'll do a live show just for Patreon, which, I watch the Imagineers. They do a fantastic job with live shows and with Patreon. So, hey, Imagineers, which, by the way, let me go ahead and give props to them. Matt and his wife adopted a child a couple of weeks ago. So great. I love that story. And they talked about it on their previous episodes. I don't feel bad announcing it now, obviously. And of course, our dear Susie getting married in like a month.
I'm so excited for her.
I am so excited. I cannot imagine what kind of guy even is slightly worthy of Susie, our dear Susie, but she's getting married. It's exciting. So we're hoping to be able to see them and have them on, our show in a couple months or whatever, whenever things kind of.
Yeah. When they settle down, maybe.
When they settle down. Exactly. Jenn, you're going to be on a podcast tomorrow night, I believe.
I am.
It's called Living with Tough to Be a Bug.
No, stop it right now.
I don't know.
So blasphemy. It is Living with the Land Speeder, which of course David Dollar was a guest on episode 2. And it is such a fun show. I've through almost all of the episodes. They're
like 12 or 13 in, so it's not hard to catch up. Right?
It's great.
They Star Warsified a Disney ride. They take a Disney ride, 1 per episode, and they just turned it into Star Wars. And that's like each person has their own idea of what's going to be. Mine was Tron and episode 2. And I basically called it the Weasel Chase, which is based after the bounty hunter, Zam Weasel from episode 2, mostly because I wanted to do something with the little kiosk there in the front where you had
your most exciting thing was the food.
Like this 1,000 calorie serving of cheese sticks with this thick marinara sauce. And I wanted to call it Death Sticks. Because and it's got a caution on it. You don't eat this before you go on a coaster. Don't eat this in the hot sun because it will kill you. Just sit back and enjoy it.
It's kill you because of Death Sticks. Okay,
Death Sticks, exactly. Because it's so caloric and so thick. But are you allowed to say what you're going to be doing tomorrow night? I mean, maybe not
to say the attraction.
Ride, but
I can tell you the attraction. We are retheming Dinosaur, and if you go to their social media, they have us like all photoshopped into the the ride. But yeah, we are going to.
And you're basing your entire thing on just Rise of Skywalker, right? All of those, and I'm just kidding. Nobody liked Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, I was going to say nobody liked that, right? So not just me.
Fun times. Now, if you're listening to this episode on the podcast, I will be in Pacific Northwest at this very moment, honestly. Tomorrow's episode, I guess today, whatever, the 21st of September, we have our good friend Melissa Reagan on. She's going to be talking about all the food stuff. We're calling it the one with the foodie because she is talking about her solo trip where she did Food and Wine, hit all the restaurants and everything. So that's a fun show too. So Jenn, let's do some contact information. Jenn, where can we find you whenever as your trips and stuff?
Yeah. At Upon a Star Jenn would be where I post a lot of travel related content. And then my personal Instagram is at Jenn_Novotny as well.
Nice. Now, Jacob in the chat says, I know dinosaurs are pretty mid-ride, but I enjoyed it when I was a kid. I know what some of the things that Jenn's going to be doing to this attraction, and I'm really excited to hear her. I've felt honored to be able to kind of give her a few extra like Star Wars like little phrases and words and characters and stuff, so she can impress all the guys and stuff. Of course, Living with the Land Speeder is the name of the podcast. You can find them on all their socials. Find me at the Magic on $1. Of course, I've crossed 1,000 followers. Thank you. Find me on Facebook, of course, Magic on $1 and Disney on $1 as well. And finally, since we're doing all the plugs and stuff, we have the Deucecast movie show. Our 600th episode is recording Saturday night. Jenn, I don't know what you're doing Saturday, but I wanted to tell you that you were invited to stop in on Saturday evening if you'd like. It is a come and go kind of thing. We're doing some special stuff, and I'll tell you about it later. But it's going to be
tell me about that.
It's going to be pretty fun, and you'll be able to step in. But also, quasi producer Heather, find her at the Moana Mom. Yes, Jacob, we cannot wait to have you on 600. It's gonna be fun. Find Heather at the Moana Mom. She's got some great stuff going on over there. Got another guy coming in. There's Garrison Rifen, which I'm
hi Garrison.
Thank you, Garrison. The pride of Tifton, Georgia. And by the way, and I know this, I'm cross-referencing shows here, but happy birthday to Scott Rifen, the voice of Waycross, Georgia, in his radio career down there. So anyway, yeah, a lot of fun stuff coming up and everything. We hope you continue to listen to the show. We just really appreciate you guys joining the show. We've had several people stop in. We're going to probably, like I said, try to do this sometime in October. Then in November, we'll do a Christmas themed show as well. Maybe have some guests on as we go live, and just really excited about what we're going to be doing. And finally, let's go ahead and say it that we have a YouTube show, not we as in Jen and I, but the Upon a Star Travel has a YouTube show that has started last week. I was on that one. And of course, this week is we have a few different people. Some of the agents and some special people are coming on the show itself to do some special fun shows. Basically just kind of doing just YouTube only. We may put that audio feed somewhere else and maybe on our feed. I don't know. But it's going to be a lot
David,
of fun.
of course, being a regular contributor.
Of course. So Jen, what is this YouTube show all about? We're still kind of putting the name together. What's up, Andrew?
Yeah.
Still kind of putting the name together. It's like we're loosely calling it the travel show. We'll see what happens.
Travel chat,
travel chat, whatever. But
honestly, it is just a place where we can discuss all of the cool things that are happening in travel. So we love Disney. So lots of, we talked about Destination D23, of course.
Right.
But, this week we're chatting Disney Cruise Line and like why Disney Cruise Line is different, what we're excited about for the treasure. There's going to be a rotating cast because this is for all of our agents to really showcase who they are and what we love and what we're excited about. So you'll get to know, you will see very familiar faces from Main Street, like obviously David Dollar. You're going to see quasi-producer Heather. You'll see Kyla.
Right.
You'll see Emily and Jessica, who were on just a couple episodes ago, the Disneyland episode recently. And I know we've had some of our other friends on throughout the episode, so you will see some familiar faces, meet some new ones. We're excited.
Basically, there are a lot of great talents in our agency, and we're kind of harnessing that and putting it together because there's not a lot of YouTube shows right now on YouTube for Disney and for travel and stuff, and we're just kind of be like, hey, let's make it happen.
Here we are.
So here we are. Guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This has been a lot of fun chatting, and love doing a live show because heck, it's live. I can't edit this thing. So, but we might edit it for the podcast. I'll take out the part where my microphone went out. But thank you guys in the chat for joining us. Andrew and Coach Bello and Ross from Wyoming and Garrison and everybody else that I'm missing and not thinking about now. But thank you for joining us in the chat. Quasi-producer Heather, thank you for being a part of the show and doing the full producing, not just quasi tonight. And of course, that is Jen and I am Dave. Hey, don't forget to thank all those Phoenicians.